Europe, often viewed as a symbol of prosperity and stability, is witnessing the unraveling of several of its nations. Political chaos, economic downturns, and environmental crises are pushing some countries to the brink of collapse. In this video, we'll take you through 10 European countries facing severe challenges in 2024. Stay with us as we explore the unique problems these nations face and the potential consequences of their collapse. Country 1. France. France, a cornerstone of European power, is battling widespread social unrest in 2024. For years, the country has faced rising dissatisfaction with government policies, particularly regarding economic inequality and employment. Protests that started with the Yellow Vest movement have become more frequent and intense, reflecting deeper social and political fragmentation. This unrest is crippling the economy, with strikes and protests disrupting industries across the country. Inflation and unemployment have worsened the situation, especially for the youth, who are struggling to find jobs. Public services are under strain, and the housing crisis has reached alarming levels in major cities like Paris and Lyon. The government's inability to address these issues is causing political parties on both the far left and far right to gain ground, making France's political landscape increasingly polarized. Amid rising tensions, climate change is exacerbating the situation. Extreme heat waves and droughts have affected agriculture and energy supplies, adding to the country's woes. France faces a challenging future unless it can find a way to unite its divided society and address these growing issues. Country 2. Portugal. In 2024, Portugal is facing an economic crisis, marked by a significant exodus of young talent. The brain drain is intensifying as highly skilled professionals leave for better opportunities abroad, particularly in Northern Europe and the United States. The country's public debt is soaring, and inflation is eroding household purchasing power, leading to widespread frustration. Tourism, a major economic driver for Portugal, has taken a hit as global travel slows due to rising costs and security concerns. Small businesses, especially those in the tourism and service sectors, are closing at an alarming rate. The government's efforts to revive the economy through fiscal measures have had limited success, leaving the country in a precarious position. The talent drain, combined with economic decline, is weakening Portugal's long-term prospects. Key industries like healthcare and technology are struggling to keep up with demand, and unemployment is on the rise. As the country continues to lose its best minds, many fear that Portugal will not be able to recover from this downward spiral. Country 3. Italy. Italy's economy in 2024 is under immense pressure, with a national debt that has soared to over 150% of GDP. This financial crisis is compounded by rapid inflation and political instability. Successive governments have struggled to implement reforms, and public confidence in the political system is at an all-time low. Italy's financial markets are fragile, and the country is increasingly reliant on support from the European Central Bank. The public is growing increasingly frustrated, as austerity measures have done little to improve the standard of living. Protests and strikes have become a regular feature in major cities, with citizens demanding higher wages, lower taxes, and action on corruption. Italy's social fabric is fraying, and the country's political landscape is deeply polarized between populist and establishment parties. To make matters worse, Italy is also facing environmental challenges. Droughts and heat waves are severely affecting agricultural output, which is crucial for the country's economy. With political instability and economic hardship growing, Italy's future within the European Union is increasingly uncertain. Country 4. Spain. Spain is in the grips of a severe economic crisis in 2024, with youth unemployment exceeding 30%. The younger generation is struggling to find stable, well-paying jobs, forcing many to leave the country in search of better opportunities. This brain drain is weakening Spain's long-term economic prospects, as educated professionals seek employment abroad, contributing to a growing talent gap. The housing market has also spiraled out of control, with skyrocketing rents making it nearly impossible for young families to secure affordable homes. This has led to widespread dissatisfaction, as many Spaniards feel left behind by the country's economic recovery efforts. Protests demanding housing reform and better employment opportunities have become a frequent occurrence in cities like Madrid and Barcelona. Spain's economy is teetering on the edge of recession, with rising inflation and stagnant wages fueling public anger. The government's inability to address these issues is causing social unrest, and the situation is likely to worsen unless significant reforms are made. Country 5. Greece. Despite multiple bailouts and austerity measures, Greece remains trapped in economic hardship in 2024. Unemployment, especially among the youth, remains high, with over 40% of young Greeks struggling to find jobs. Tourism, which is vital to Greece's economy, has been severely affected by political instability and high inflation, further worsening the country's financial situation. The public's patience is wearing thin as austerity measures continue to hurt the middle and lower classes. Protests against government policies are common, as citizens demand better economic opportunities and relief from the high cost of living. Greece's economy is shrinking once again, making it one of the weakest in Europe. Despite international aid, Greece remains mired in debt, with little prospect for recovery. The country's political instability, compounded by corruption and ineffective leadership, makes it difficult to implement necessary reforms. Without significant changes, Greece's future remains uncertain. Country 6. Ukraine. Ukraine, embroiled in a war with Russia since 2022, faces a catastrophic economic situation in 2024. The ongoing conflict has devastated the country's infrastructure, and the economy has shrunk by over 30%. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced, and the war has drained the country's resources, leading to rapid inflation and widespread poverty. Despite significant international aid, Ukraine is struggling to recover. Industries have been destroyed, and the country's political landscape is fractured, with deep divisions emerging between regions. The humanitarian crisis is worsening, as millions of Ukrainians live in refugee camps or under the constant threat of violence. Ukraine's future is uncertain, as the war shows no signs of ending soon. The economy is in ruins, and the country risks becoming a failed state if the conflict continues without resolution. Country 7. Hungary. Hungary's authoritarian shift under Viktor Orban's government is pushing the country toward collapse in 2024. Orban's nationalist policies have isolated Hungary from much of the European Union, and the country is facing significant economic challenges. Inflation is soaring, and foreign investment has plummeted, leaving Hungary's economy in a precarious state. The government's close ties with Russia have complicated Hungary's relationship with the EU, as sanctions and trade barriers restrict access to key markets. The manufacturing and agricultural sectors, once vital to Hungary's economy, are suffering due to poor economic management and international isolation. Public dissatisfaction is growing, with protests against Orban's government becoming more frequent. As Hungary becomes more isolated from its European partners, its economy is faltering, raising questions about the country's future within the EU. Country 8. Belarus. Belarus is facing an economic disaster in 2024, driven by international sanctions and political repression. President Alexander Lukashenko's authoritarian regime has alienated the country from much of the global community, leading to economic isolation. Inflation is skyrocketing, unemployment is rising, and public protests are growing in intensity. Despite widespread dissatisfaction, the government has responded to protests with brutal crackdowns, further isolating Belarus from potential international support. The country's reliance on Russian energy and financial aid has left it vulnerable to external shocks, and its key industries are collapsing. Belarus's future is uncertain, as the government shows no signs of loosening its grip on power. The country risks becoming a failed state if it cannot address its growing economic and social challenges. Country 9. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina is on the verge of collapse in 2024, as ethnic tensions and political deadlock paralyze the government. The country's complex political system, established after the 1990s Civil War, is proving ineffective at managing the growing divisions between its three main ethnic groups, Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs. The economy is in decline, with high unemployment and inflation exacerbating the crisis. Protests and strikes are becoming more frequent, as citizens demand better living conditions and greater political accountability. Without significant political reforms, Bosnia and Herzegovina risks sliding back into conflict and economic ruin. Country 10. Albania. Albania is facing a rapid decline in 2024 due to widespread corruption and economic mismanagement. Despite efforts to modernize and integrate into the European Union, the country remains plagued by high unemployment, poverty, and a lack of infrastructure. Government corruption is rampant, eroding public trust in institutions and deterring foreign investment. The economy is shrinking, with inflation rising and public services failing to meet the needs of the population. Protests against the government are becoming more frequent, as citizens demand greater transparency and accountability. Albania risks becoming a failed state if these issues are not addressed soon. In 2024, Albania finds itself plagued by widespread corruption, with key government officials and business leaders implicated in scandals that further weaken the country's already fragile institutions. High unemployment, particularly among the youth, is driving many Albanians to seek work abroad, exacerbating the country's brain drain. Public services, including healthcare and education, are in a state of disrepair, leaving citizens frustrated and increasingly distrustful of the government's ability to enact meaningful reforms. The country's infrastructure is underdeveloped, and its reliance on external aid and remittances makes Albania vulnerable to global economic fluctuations. If Albania cannot confront these systemic issues, it risks further isolation from the European Union, and its long-term prospects for growth and development will continue to decline. Protests are becoming a regular occurrence, as citizens demand transparency and effective governance to pull the country back from the brink of failure. The collapse of these European nations is a sobering reminder of the fragility of even the most established countries. As we've seen, political unrest, economic instability, and environmental crises are pushing these nations to their limits. The future of Europe could be reshaped by how these countries respond to their challenges. Will they find ways to overcome these difficulties, or will we witness deeper divides and further collapse? Stay tuned to Discovering the Earth as we continue to explore these crucial global issues and their impact on the world. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on the future of these nations. Do you think they can recover, or are these signs of a bigger problem in Europe? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.